On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
The one thing I've learned the most in all these companies is having the right people, but finding people that you align with and that your values, that if culture is important to you, that it has to be important to them.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I've got Robin Wurzel here on the King's stage as a queen, of course. How did I do with that German name there, Robin?
Yeah, I think you got it. So,
Awesome.
In the States, everyone says Wurzel, but Wurzel is more German.
More German. Yeah, I love it. So Wurzel, obviously, like you just said, we just really appreciate you being here. What kind of business or businesses, in this case, Robin, do you have?
Well, about over 25 years ago, my husband and I started a construction company, a general contracting company. We started working out of our home and realized pretty soon that that wasn't going to work. We had 2 young kids at home and a dog. And every time they made noise, we'd quiet everyone down. So we moved into an office. And in 2008, when the economy crashed, construction wasn't doing so great. So he said, we need to open a company that's going to withstand the economy or, and here in Texas where we live, HVAC, well, plumbing always does. And then, of course, HVAC is, given. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we added electrical. So that's the service company. We also started building our offices and bought land and turned it into business parks. So we have a land development company. We're building out some more now. And then on that property, we opened a commercial kitchen complex. So it has 7 commercial kitchens. So it's just like naturally things kind of progress. We've opened some businesses that weren't good fits and that, we either closed or we've even let the, general manager or partner just take because it was a distraction. So, and then about 5 years ago, we moved out to some acreage. My daughter wanted to start a boarding and horse training company. And she quickly realized that wasn't what she wanted to do full time. She's working back with us here and my husband's managing that. So we don't actually do the feeding. We just kind of manage it, but it's on our property. So we get to see the horses and donkeys and all that. So
that's incredible. A lot going on in your world.
Yes, definitely. So
sounds like it's kind of how you guys like it though.
Yeah, I think we do. Probably do. It just continues.
Yeah, exactly. One kind of leads into the next. Well, we're going to have plenty to talk about, plenty of experience to draw from here today. So just really appreciate your perspective. Even before we get into it, you're coming from different industries. You're coming from service. You're coming from construction. You're coming from land. You're coming from horses. You're going to give us a lot of perspective here today. Before we jump into the story and your businesses and stuff like that, I want to know why. Why all of these things? What's the bigger picture? Why business? Like, what are you doing this for?
I had started out, actually, I was a flight attendant for 28 years, raising the kids. My husband started the construction company and, we worked together at some level. I graduated from LSU with a degree in marketing and a business degree. So I could draw on that some. I grew up in a family. My stepdad, who I grew up with, had his own business. He had a family business, an oil field company. Right. And so the whole family, nieces, nephews, cousins, at work through there at one point or another. So I've never really known any difference to kind of having that in the background. So when we started the company, the construction company, I wasn't as involved at first. And then when I retired from American Airlines, the service company was where I stepped in to do marketing and decided that there was some things that I wanted to change, mainly the culture. And my husband and I both are very people first kind of managers. And we just wanted to have a culture that was, we like the people we work with. We want to help them in their dreams, even if it wasn't here. If someone comes to us now and they want to move on, I think sometimes they get upset. We're not trying to keep them here, but we ask questions. What is it do you want to do? And what are you, and try and help them, direct them to a place that would be a better fit. Or, sometimes I think they think grass is greener, and then we've had many people come back to work for us
Yeah.
sometimes. So I think giving them that permission to go see what's out there, and then we're here if you want to come back. We've always had an open door, and we probably have about 6 people working for us now that have been with us in the past that have come back. So we like that. It's, so
Yeah.
good part.
Yeah, it means that they didn't know what they had, and that obviously when they realize it, they want to get back again, which speaks to, like you said, the environment that you guys are creating and value, right? Because that's what that means to them, is that their life in some or maybe multiple ways is better with you in it. Yeah, I think that's obviously our responsibility as leaders.
Yeah, I know one time, because we've had our kids all work for us at one point. We have 3 children, and one time we had to let someone go. And I remember a younger person who worked for us, she said, well, you say you're like family, and that just wasn't very nice, and was upset with us. And I said, you know what? We've let 2 of our kids go before, so for different reasons. It is part of the family, because you have to be honest with your family members, and they have to be
That's right.
accountable. And, they
right.
can't just because, they're related doesn't mean they have a job. So I know when my dad's company growing up, he never let us personally work in it, because he felt that we should find, what our own thing, what we want to do. But I do know when he was hard on us like that, he didn't, I remember he was an umpire, I played baseball, and he would strike me out, and he'd always say, you go down swinging. So he was never a dad that really made things easy. He always was challenging me and pushing me. And this is my stepdad I talk about, because he raised me. My real father's in the picture, but he was my day-to-day dad. So
yeah, understand. I think just the mindset of what you're giving is so applicable. I guess my follow-up question to that is for the listener today, maybe it doesn't have a big team or have had a chance of firing and then rehiring somebody. What would you impart into them about what they could do now while the thing is small, to be able to have that opportunity in the future where you're the place where people want to come back to?
Well, you'll hear a lot when you listen to podcasts or read books about successful companies, and I always talk about the culture. And that just comes naturally to my husband and I, or we felt it did. But what I found is it doesn't always keep people here, but I think that's what brings them back. Because a lot of people, it's about the money. They'll make more money here. They'll take, a sign-on bonus, and you're, kind of sad, but they're following the money. But once they get into that role, they may realize that's not really the most important thing. So yes, we can, the culture is what we like to say. We care about everyone, but it doesn't always translate to every person you hire. I mean, everyone wants to come on for the initially, what's in it for me, the benefits and the bonuses and stuff like that. And, so it doesn't always translate, but I think it's what we enjoy working. If I'm going to work in a business, I want to enjoy what I do and what feels good to me. So that's probably why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about a little bit how it got started. You mentioned you were flight attending while raising kids, and your husband started the construction. What was the involvement when you transitioned out of that? Like, how did you get into business?
We had a manager at the time that decided to go off and do his own thing. And my husband said, well, can you do this until we find someone, full time? And I've always believed that I could do anything, I want. That's not a problem. We had the company set up, and we follow kind of a mentoring and training group called Next Star Network for the service industry. And I was already familiar with them. I knew they would give me the pieces that maybe I didn't have. The part I didn't know was the operational part, the field thing part. And so I hired several managers or general managers, operation managers, and it just wasn't working out. And I had to learn a lot of the field stuff quickly, not how to do it, but how to talk to the techs, what, expectations they have. And I do find as a woman, and it's kind of a male dominated field, I often got pushback, maybe a little, I don't know if I can use the word, a little BS in there, so I had to figure out how to work through all that. And eventually 2 years ago, I found a general manager that him and we just really felt we were on the same page, had the same vision, had the same ideas. And he stepped in, and since then things, have been really doing well with that company. So I the one thing I've learned the most in all these companies is having the right people, but finding people that you align with and that your values, that if culture is important to you, that it has to be important to them. And and you can go through a lot of interviews and a lot of hires, and you don't know people until you're 3 to 6 months in. So it's, but when you do find those, you just want to keep them because they're what they lift you up. Always think of it that way. You can't do it all on your own. And so when you find someone that support, they're just helping, push you up, and likewise, you're helping push them up. So it's a support thing. That's what I look for.
Yeah. The word that you use, alignment, is such a great word because it doesn't have to be the same. They don't have to have the same vision or dreams as you personally, but there's alignment in the business, and their personal goals and targets are somewhat in alignment with yours, or maybe it's the vision of the business, but you can serve each other. That's what the alignment means, is that we both get served in this relationship. And so I just appreciate that perspective. I want to switch to like a practical conversation here. We kind of give us how you got involved, and it sounded like it was out of need. And then you probably just crushed it. And so you just, why go back? I'm here. I'm winning, So I want to know, in those first couple of years, you kind of just mentioned obviously hiring and some of those things, but if you can nail down one decision that was just spot on, you nailed it, you do it over and over and over again, that could be helpful to our listeners, what would that be?
I think one thing I've learned, not only through operating a business, but also through my education, reading, listening, podcasts and stuff, is having systems in place. The best example I can talk about is if you're going to run across the United States and you decide, I'm going to do 10, and you may have heard this scenario before, this thing, I'm going to run 10 miles a day, no matter what, and I'm going to get here on this day. And if you do that, you will get to your end goal. But if you wake up one morning and you're not feeling well, or it's raining and you're like, well, I'll just wait, and the next day I'll run 20 miles, and then something happens and you start going down that path, you'll never get to the goal. I'm an LSU Tiger person, so follow football. I think Nick Saban, though, I think what makes him so successful is that it's every day you look at that next play. You're not looking at the end game. You're not looking at the win or the national championship. You're looking at that day, that play, that run, and if you keep focusing on those things, then the end will happen, but you put all the systems in place and then just follow it. And of course, you'll have things that throw you off every time. You have to just figure out how to come back to it. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned a couple of things. I want to dig into one side of it. Obviously, having systems and process, it's something that we kind of as entrepreneurs throw out a bunch. And then there's some people maybe listening going, I've heard that, but what does that mean? And so you likened it to football a little bit, where it's like, look, we got to block and tackle, we got to run the play, we got like, these are the things today that we're doing in a row, in the same way, with perfection, with this system, so that every day we can win. And that's in essence what a system is inside your business. But I guess my question for you would be, if a person listening today has never thought about a system or a process, and they're kind of just winging it, let's just be honest, you and I both remember what that feels like. How does that person come out of that?
Well, I know that when I talked about it earlier, this system that we use was already built. So, I could also tell everyone, there is systems for every business you're in, whether you could find it or talk to a mentor. My husband still talks to people in the construction that he worked when he was just a draftsperson, and they're always happy. Even if it's in the same industry, we should always be helping and building people up. It's one thing I totally agree with. There's so much work out there. If you're competing and pushing against the other people, then you're not learning from them. And it's not about the competition. I know some companies do. They want the biggest market share. But if we're helping each other and we're learning from it, then that business or that market will just grow because, we're all kind of, working together and helping each other. So I think when you get that mindset too, and reach out to other people who are there, learn from them, that will help you build the systems for your particular industry. With the NetStar that I stepped into, that's why I knew I could do this, is they have a system. They call it their double-digit profit. And it starts with an agenda card. They talk about that. So I've given away their secrets here. but it's basically an agenda that shows the customer, this is what I'm going to go over today. And this is how we're going to do this call. So the customer
Sure.
is fully aware. And then we offer options. We don't sell. We never talk about selling. We offer options to the customers. We look what's in their best interest, and then we lay it out for them. And then they pick what's best for them, what's best for maybe their finances, what's best for their, if they want something more along the green line as opposed to something, so it's more energy efficient, I guess. So
Sure.
we just let them know all the options, and then and then we do the work. And always, just like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, we do the place better than we got there. So make sure we clean up. Now that's perfect. Not every system's perfect, and or every person's perfect. So we do have breakdowns in it, and then you have to monitor that and hold people accountable. I think the hardest part for me is when I get a bad review, or we get a bad review, or a call from a customer that's upset or disappointed, and I know every single time where it fell. It was a breakdown in the system, and it's without doubt. So then you just have to train that person, or let them know how to do it better next time. So that's the biggest part. And the faster you grow and the bigger you get, it's harder to do that. So you have to put people in place to also manage them. It just layers. So
100%. Such a good answer, and even follow up, just explanation. I just think that you can tell you've gone through it, and because the answer really is just don't have an ego, right? Like reach out, just ask for help. It's okay. You knew you had a system that you could follow. And I'm sure even with that, you still reached out like to other owners and to other people in the program, I'm sure. And hey, what are you guys doing? How's this? How's that? And so I just love the humility of that answer. I think it's true. And we all have to kind of get it out of our own way to let someone else kind of come in and not like give us all the answers, but we just need a little bit, like, would you say earlier, experience sharing maybe? So let's flip the coin though. Let's talk about a bad decision that you made, something that it just, palm to the forehead and it just didn't work out well at all.
Well, I think another thing you learn, but what happens is, just like if you have children, that you can tell them what to do, but they're going to make their own mistakes. And you just hope that they'll eventually learn. But one of them is following the shiny thing. And we've done it many a times. I've told you, we do have several businesses, but there have been so many businesses or parts of a business or something we decide to add. We're like, oh, that's a great fit. It will be easy. We already have the infrastructure. We just add this on. And it's not because we're trying to build this huge thing. It's just like one of them was Heritage Waste. It was a waste company. I'm like, well, we have construction. We have this. So we have all these opportunities, and we're paying for waste companies, so we can do that. And what it does when you add these things is it takes you away, it takes your focus, it takes your finances away from what you're doing well. And it, if you break in too many pieces, it becomes, you're fractured. And so some of the things that we've added have in the past, we've gotten rid of, and then knowing when to get rid of it too. That's always another good one that's hard to know. I think every business, we've always said 3 years. We usually try and stick with it 3 years and then decide if it's something that we want to continue to pursue. So yeah. So it's just, that's been fine. Following the shiny thing, not keeping a focus on what you're doing is a big one. With me, it's one of the biggest mistakes I did in this company is I let someone decide on a contract for a uniform company to switch, and we didn't follow the contract correctly. And so then they came back and sued me for breach of contract, and I had to get an attorney. And then you learn this too with business is, okay, it might, settling on something might be cheaper, but then your pride gets in and you're like, but I know I'm not doing anything wrong. And so I'm going to fight the fight. And so what's best for the company and what's best for your ego can sometimes get involved. I did settle that one and I won, but it cost me as much in attorney fees as it did in what I would have settled for. So did I win? I don't know, but those are some of the kind of pitfalls you look for. Growing too fast is another one. We've had that happen several times, and not having the right processes in place. When you grow fast, then you kind of lose control. And so those are the three things I think that, I've learned from, and hopefully, will improve on and do better at.
Yeah. So much value there in those three things. Just because you ended with the grow too fast, I'll pick off that one as a follow-up here, but
I mean, we all talk about growth. We want to grow fast. We want to,
Mhm.
have lots of revenue and lots of team members and be able to provide for them and for ourselves. But as an entrepreneur myself, I've realized that anything worth building for the long term, anything that's sustainable, anything that's going to be around for 100 years, it doesn't necessarily have to just grow fast. And that's not, I'm not interested in that. But you mentioned this growing fast, and then there's systems, and like we kind of missed the mark. And so then you have to kind of dial back down. And so with that being the backset, here's my question. There's this grow fast, figure out the rest later. And then there's put everything in place, be perfect, analysis paralysis,
Mhm.
right? And where along that scale should the listener find themselves? Because there's value in both.
Mhm. There is.
And so what would you say? What would you answer that?
That's a good one because I always think of it kind of we're in construction, so building a base, and you just build a very solid base and things that you could, like you said, grow on, things that will hold you up or support you. I would be more the conservative one sometimes, and that's so I have my husband I'm in business with, and he'll come to me and say he's going to do this and grow to this amount, and I'm like, whoa, wait, let's talk about this, and how are you going to do that? So we've gone through this for 27 years, but I have a partner now and a general manager in this service industry. And they just went to a conference and got really fired up and came back and said, we're going to grow this over 100%. So we're going to go from, 3 million to 7 million. And I was like, what? Okay, let's talk about this, So they think I'm pulling back. I'm just trying
Right.
to, I said, main thing is one, you have to show me how. And two, you have to convince everyone on the team what is in it for them. Because if you're going to grow to them, they're thinking, this is more work. What am I going to get out of it? So I said, paint a picture, show me, prove it, and show me, and then I'll support you in, that decision. So whether or not, how do you find that exact perfect place? I don't know.
Yeah.
But with us, it's just been kind of going through some of them. The first 3 years of business with Wurzel Builders, we were the fastest growing, third fastest in Austin and 12th fastest in the nation. And this is 3 years in business. So we're like, wow, this is easy. This is great.
We're great.
Yeah, we're great. And then guess what happens? The economy crashed. So we're like, oh, okay. And now we had companies not paying us. And, it just became, I remember the constable come in and he'd have another lien notice for my husband. And my husband said, just put it under the pile because, we were waiting on payment from owners and then we couldn't pay people. So, but the other thing that I think I always like to go back to, my husband will never get up. When the things get harder is when he digs in more, where I might be kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. He just keeps pushing it. And I've learned a lot of that. A good scenario about that is I remember a gold rush story where, someone finally, they were digging for gold. They just gave up and someone else bought the lease. And within 2 inches, they would have struck gold. So it's like that. You never give up. And he'll find the most imaginative ways to get through things. So I think that's the difference between people who really make it in business and who don't, is the ones who they scratch and claw and they find another way and they're creative. And, when the economy went down, we had bankers that would give us money when things happened, the economy crashed, the banks didn't want to deal with us. And when things are good, they'll give you money. And then when they're not, they don't want to. And so we just kept going bank to bank, and we found someone who believed in us. He was actually someone that started in a grocery store.
Wow.
And he took us on, and now we have several. So we don't, if one's portfolio is too full or they don't want to, then another one will always take us. So having the relationships with bankers are very important in those times.
Hey, Chaz, Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9 figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon.
The description of your husband and being persistent, really, it's funny, this weekend I told you I had the Gathering the Kings Mastermind at my house. Part of that, we have some smaller business owners, probably similar to the listeners that haven't hit 7 figures in their business yet. And the main vein that I personally gave some value in was just around persistence. And it's because I think people like you and I know, because we can look back. We can look back on the moments where, you and your husband persisted through the downturn and figured it out and got creative. And when most people gave up, you kind of just kept going, and maybe it made sense in some moments. Sometimes it was blind ambition, but regardless, you persisted through, and you can look back now. And so that's what they don't have yet. They don't have the ability to look back yet and see how they've persisted through something in order to be able to say, look, I've got, we've got one of our companies who's going to go from 3 to 7, or at least that's the target. And they're just mind blown on how to get to the first million. And it's like, well, you just have to persist, right? Because 0 to 1 oftentimes is the hardest, and 3 to 7 is a whole lot easier usually. So you're thinking of all these tactics and strategies and the systems and stuff, but a lot of times it's like, okay, you can't persist through the wrong thing. You can't be doing the wrong thing over and over and over and over and over and expect to win. But the attitude of never giving up, never quitting, clawing for success, like you gave the picture to us, is oftentimes, like you said, kind of like that it factor that all the people that have quote unquote made it can say. It's not like really that they were anything special. They just look back and they have this history like you just described. We kind of just push through it.
Yeah.
You want to add one last comment to that?
Yeah. Well, when you get back, I always like to talk at stories, things that inspire me, but the story with Thomas Edison, he failed more times than he prevailed. And that's part of the business. You're learning every day from something you did, and you just don't make the same mistake twice. Try and keep going in that vein. You will persist. But
that's right. Okay. So I want to switch over to our speed round here, Robin. I got a couple different type of angled questions coming at you. I'm going to switch over to KPIs, and you've got a lot of different businesses in different industries. So I love this when I get someone like you that's in different industries, because I'm not looking for an industry specific. I'm looking for, when you think of all of your business, what is the most important KPI, or rather, if you could only pick one to track forever and ever, which one would it?
for the service business, it's definitely, I'm a marketing person. So, and it's not a common KPI, like most people say, but it's retention and current customer base and them referring us out. So I know a lot of people want to get in the digital and they want to pull all these new customers in. And to me, it's more about the repeat customer, the same customer. And right now we've been staying at like 80%. So when I feel I lose a customer, I'm losing a part of that. That's what I strive for the most. So I love keeping our goals at 80% or our current customer base. And then we build from there. That makes me most proud of the company. Yeah. I think the other biggest one is retention of employees, because it's, getting the right employee and keeping them is, so they're two different than conversion rate or, profit margin or, stuff like that. But I know with those two things, because that's when you're successful. So the other things will fall in place if you keep people happy. The people work for you, and the people that you're working for. So,
yeah. And you kind of summarized it there for me. I was going to do it for you, but that one KPI is people, right? And then of course, okay, well, what does that really mean? You gave a great description of how to break that down, because you're right. The front end, the client, the back end, your customer, your team member. If we can do a good job of retention, which is such a corporate word, but really it's relationship, right?
Exactly.
How do I hold and facilitate the relationship? How do I add value over and over and over again? And to your point, 80% is an extremely high retention number, but it's a whole lot easier to get a person who's already done business with you to do business with you again than to go find somebody new. And it's also a whole lot easier to take somebody who already believes and trusts in the mission on your team to another level. So I think that you hit it nail on the head here. But my follow-up question to you is, how did you know that? Or how did you come to know that? Maybe is the better question.
Well, like I said, I have a marketing background, so a lot of it comes from that. But why did I go into marketing? It's something I loved. I was a flight attendant. They ask me, why do you want to be a flight attendant? It's people. It's the people that I love. And it's always wanting everyone to achieve what they want to achieve. My husband and I do a lot of mentoring, or we did in the past. Things right now with COVID that kind of backed off, but we still are here for people and we try and help them, whether it's with our business or another business. We have young kids that will come to us and want to start a business, and we'll help them, that way as well. So it's just probably more what is important to my husband and I is the people. And we saw that when we work with the people, everyone we work with, that's when we enjoy our work. So then work's not work. It's just part of what you do. And day in and day out, you come to the office and you see the people that you enjoy being around. You work with people that, you build relationships with. We're very much into networking, both of us. We've been in B&I, Business Networking International, for over 14 years. So we love that aspect of it, just meeting people and building relationships. So it just is what maybe comes natural, but then once you do it, that's also the success that we have. It's because of that.
100%. Okay. Next question is, what book would you recommend, Robin, for a listener today wanting to grow their business?
Oh, wow. I really can't tell one, because what I do is I listen now Audible because I drive so far, but reading books and listening is one of my favorite things to do about leadership, about business, and every bit of it, you take something from each one. And so I can't just point to one, because you'll read the beginning and you get all this insight, and then you read another one and you just start putting it all together. So
that's right.
Yeah, I really couldn't point to one. It's a accumulation of all of them I've read.
Be hungry. Go after it is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always, I think, oh my gosh, the most disappointing thing to me is when I hear someone, especially young, and they think they know everything. They have nothing more to learn. And every day, and I'm not just talking about in business, but in life, every single day is an opportunity to learn. And seeking those little nuggets every day is just fulfilling for me. And it disappoints me when I hear someone that thinks they got it all, because it's like, oh my gosh, you have so much more you could learn from. So.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Patrick Lencioni talks about in his book, The Ideal Team Player, hungry, humble, and smart. Those are the three attributes that they hire off of. But obviously, being those things as an entrepreneur, hungry and humble are interesting duos, but smart is a complementary. Hey, I do have some things here. I am intelligent, but man, that humility and hunger, keep it tamed is what it really is. And even as you continue to press in, like you're suggesting that the listener does, as you learn more and listen to more and more books or podcasts or events or whatever, your smart goes up. You become better, but you still got to hold on to that hungry and the humble piece. Otherwise, it doesn't normally work out.
Yeah. That's why I think conferences, I could be a conference junkie, because every time I've gone to them, it gets you, that motive. I sold real estate for a while too, and I used to love those conferences. It gets you so hungry, and you come back and you have so many ideas, but you have to keep that going, because that, I don't know, there's kind of like a honeymoon stage with a conference, and so the conferences, you learn so much, you get so much energy from them. I highly recommend them. I've been to, it doesn't matter if it's real estate. I've been to a concrete conference that I loved in Las Vegas, and Next Door conferences. I get so much out of those. So they're a lot of fun too.
That's good stuff. This is actually parlays right into my next question. But before I ask my question, I'm going to give you, I want to keep your conversation, your sentence going there. The exactly why in Gathering the Kings Mastermind, it's not just an event, right? There's an event followed by a monthly roundtable and some weekly connection stuff and relationship building stuff. And then another event. There's all this trail of relationship building. So that way, what you're talking about is you get both benefits of being able to get the high and the hunger, but then also the discipleship of walking through some of those things you got really excited about and actually going and implementing them. So not necessarily just that I'm the only one that offers that. My question to you then is, you obviously do B&I networking. So you already told us what you think about that. What do you think about masterminds or conferences? Like, Tell us a little bit more. You kind of gave us a little bit. That was my next question, but
Yeah,
based on that
no,
history, what would you say?
I think if I had the time to do more, I mean, there's so many that I would look into, but I told you, so I love the conferences. I think they give you a lot of value and networking. I'm trying to think of, kind of your question. And more than that, it's, if I could do more of it, I would. There's like women in business here. There's
Yep.
so many different organizations I would love to do. And maybe I will at some point. Right now I'm working more in the business and on the business than I would like. I hope to build that to where, I could be more in that realm. I figure it also opens you up to, again, more mentoring, being around people that have also been in your shoes. So you can, it's so fun when we go to dinner with someone that has another business and we start talking about the pitfalls. And it's always like, well, let me tell you, because I've been there, or this is what happened to me. And it's funny how those are sometimes the hard times in your business. But when you talk to someone else who's been through it, it becomes actually some of the highlights because of where you are now and what you learned from it and that you got through it. And so it's, I just like connecting with people that have also, gone through the same things we are on a regular basis.
I love it. Yeah, 100%. It's one of the guys that I've recently met here in my group. He said, I've been so hungry for community. I guess I didn't realize it because as an entrepreneur, we kind of silo ourselves, right? Like we don't talk to your husband, your spouse usually, unless you're in the business with your spouse. But even that is like, then you taking it home a little bit. Can't talk to your team. Like who do I talk to about these pitfalls, right? And getting around other entrepreneurs is sometimes difficult because we're always so busy and doing our own thing. We silo ourselves. And so he was just describing how, really it's friendship, it's community, it's accountability, it's encouragement. Like you said earlier, it's like all these things wrapped up into, man, I just need some people to be around. And it goes back to relationships, which is exactly what you talked about earlier. So I think that when we focus on the relationship, it not only do we give value to our clients and to our team members, we can also get it from that piece as well.
I think of another, in this position, another analogy someone gave at, one of our conferences. And they say, when you're the owner or the CEO or something, you're like a swan on the top of the water and you're pedaling so fast underneath, but you want everyone to kind of see you and the calmness. As a flight attendant, same thing. If you heard something on the plane, a bump that kind of made people nervous, you maintained your calm. And then, because you want to keep everyone else, you want to be the one that's worrying about things, not have everyone else worry about it.
Yeah. It makes for a difficult time, but also that's what we're made for, right? Like this is literally how we're designed as entrepreneurs. And it's why we have this obsession with solving problems and building businesses and people. So Robin, I have one last question here for you. If you could talk or whisper in the ear to the younger Robin, what would you say?
I think I would say, you know what, you're going to have a really wonderful life and just take the ride and enjoy every minute of it. So, because I have every day has been great. We have problems in life. We all do. But the end of the day, when you take it all in summation, there's just been so many good things. So don't worry about the little things. Enjoy the moments. So.
Did you find yourself along the way being anxious and worried about the detail or even the future? Is that why you're talking to your younger self that way?
I always have a plan A, plan B, plan C. My husband he waits till things kind of, maybe fall apart and then we'll fix it. So it's maybe that staying in kind of in the middle there, and I know the biggest thing with being an entrepreneur with your husband is we both have different ideas on so many areas. So we've decided we just play in our own sandbox. We have expectations. This part you do, this part I'll do. And we can offer each other advice and suggestions, but we let that person make those decisions. So
that's good.
I'll say that's
good.
And it kind of got off your question, but anyway.
No, it's great value. We could spend a whole podcast on how you and him have made these lanes and all of that. It's just so good. I think that every business owner, whether the spouse is in the business or not, has to figure out what that looks like. What are the lanes? How do we respect each other? What's your autonomy? What's mine? How do we challenge each other in that, but not really? There's all of those things that we can do. In fact, I'm so like, this conundrum of marriage and parenting and entrepreneurship and all these things that really like are glued together whole lot closer than we realize. It's becoming an obsession of mine, and building my children and really trying to focus in on my family, but yet build my businesses bigger than they've ever been. And so I've got a couple of ideas, one of which next year we're going to pull up a family mastermind where we'll go on a trip, and husbands, wife have a marriage session talk around the business. We've got business talk, of course, like a mastermind. And then we've got parenting stuff going on. And then time for your family with other high performing families to do cool, adventurous things. Creating a space for that has been something I've been thinking about, but it ties in everything with what you were just saying. So it's that entrepreneurs are thinking about these things, and it matters. It's the relationships that are closest to us. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, and all of my kids have started there. My son was 14. He started a company called Airsoft, Able Airsoft, because he wanted to airsoft all this stuff. And, I said, well, you got to figure out how to pay for it. So he started DBA and started selling it. And the only problem is at 14, I had to be the one shipping things. So that kind of fell to that. And then my daughter starting her horse boarding business. So they've all, done it too. And I think it's great with your kids. I mean, even a lemonade stand, just teaching them, giving them a little taste of entrepreneurship, because some will be and some won't be. Some people don't want to do more than their 40 hours, and that's fine. So
that's great. I've got a 9-year-old who I've been playing with my 9 and my 6-year-old, but we've been playing the cash flow game recently. And we go to Costco this past weekend, and my 9-year-old was like, "Hey, Daddy, we're on our way to get a bunch of liabilities." Yes, honey. Yes, we are. And thank goodness we've got a bunch of assets to pay for those liabilities. So Robin, you've been sensational. Thank you so much for your time here today. How can the listener find you? They want to connect. Maybe they're in your area and they want to do business with you. They just want to pick your brain as an entrepreneur, maybe as a woman in business or spouse in business. How can they find you? How can they connect?
I guess my email is the best way, but it's always hard to spell it out. So Robin and it's the number 1, STHCS.com, which is First Home Commercial Services. There, and then other than that, I mean, I have several emails, but that's the one that's the easiest to roll off my tongue, I guess. So
no, that's fine. And we'll put it in the show notes too. So that way, if they didn't quite hear it right, they can get it right in the show notes and just click on it and send you an email. But again, blessings on you and your family and your businesses, your teams. Thank you just so much for being here and spending the time with us. We just so appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.